Let's get it on.
Welcome to the Grind 329 podcast by Lonza. We hope you'll enjoy your stay. Follow the Grind 329 by Lonza podcast on YouTube and Instagram. Type in a beats by Lonza.
What's going on? What's going on, family? Beats by Lonza and the Grind 329 podcast family. It's your host, Lonza, Beats by Lonza, DJ Zay Smooth, wherever you know me as. And I got another special guest on the podcast today. And I know every time I have a podcast, I say I have a special guest. But this guest that I have on the show today, let me give you a little background about him. Now, you know that on the podcast, I always show people on the podcast that are movers and shakers in the community, people that have done things that you may not know about, people that have personality, people that have some grind, and people that have some things in their life that you may want to reach as people that have things that they've done in their life that the pinnacles that you may want to reach as well. So today I have in the house Mr. DC Carson. So we're going to give DC a round of applause. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for being here on the podcast. It's a pleasure. And any first words you want to say before we get into the podcast?
Man, I just really appreciate you having me on, bro. This is, a long time coming. So looking forward to chopping up with you and your subscribers and anybody else in this music production YouTube sphere. Thank y'all for welcoming me, and let's get into some great conversation.
Sounds good. So DC is not only a music producer and an artist and a songwriter and things of that nature, but I want you to tell the people kind of some of the hobbies that you do, because it's kind of unorthodox, all the things that you're talented in doing. So if you can kind of give us a list of like 5 or 6 things that you do outside of just your regular self that people wouldn't know that you do.
Um, well, a lot of people, believe it or not, because of retired military like yourself, being a musician, was a pilot in the military, but also, man, I enjoy just being outside. I enjoy, man, just cooking, getting on a grill, traveling, but really main things just like being outside. I enjoy like connecting with people, talking with people. I'm big on resilience, all that kind of good stuff. Headspace, because I mean, think about it. So, man, think it's so easy. So when I like life, I like to talk to people, mentor young men and women, just on all kind of different things. So really, I won't say I'm totally a people person, but definitely a purpose person and helping people identify what their purposes are. So those are just a few things.
Outstanding. And you also build guitars.
Yes, I do
You
feel good.
Now, what's your favorite guitar to make, if you had
Uh
to have one?
bass is easier. I mean, really, in the day you can buy like kits, like Solo Music Gear has kits you can buy, but there's all kind of different places that you just get the kit, sand it down, and then kind of I like to use True Oil, which is the kind of stuff that goes on gun stocks, but just really craft a good guitar. They're not like when you get to those custom shops when everything is there, every burr is, filed down, all that good stuff. But I just like to make a good bass and have a good thump to it.
Awesome. All right, so I want to get into, well, before we get into the world knowing about you and where you come from and how you do your thing, I
Mhm.
want to play a quick game with you. And in this particular game, it's here to kind of break the ice. However, I want you to know, and this is I don't want you to feel any kind of way about it. No one has ever won this game on this podcast. And this is the second season, and we've had about 15 episodes, and no one has won this game in any of the episodes that we had. So no. Let's see how you do. I think you're gonna fare pretty well.
Okay,
All
let's
right.
do it.
So, all right, in this game, it's going to be trivia from the 1990s and 2000s music era. All right.
Okay,
So the
let's do
first
it.
question is, according to Usher, before anything came between them, she was like what? A, his sister, B, his best friend, C, his soulmate, or D, his first love. So I'll read the
Okay.
question again. According to Usher, before anything came between them, she was like what? His sister, his best friend, his soulmate, or his first love.
I'm gonna go with best friend.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. You got that correct. His best friend is correct. That is correct. So you got that right. All right. Let's give him a round of applause. He got question number one correct.
Sweet.
All right. Question number two. We got 5 questions, by the way.
Okay.
All right. Number two. What does Johnny Gill want you to put on after your red dress and high heels?
Sweet perfume.
All right. Audience, Mr. DC Carson knows his 90s and 2000s music. All right. He's faring very, very well. Opposed to some of the other guests. No shade to the other guests who's been on the show, but he's doing pretty good. Y'all gonna have to come back on round two and beat him. All right, so question number three. In Buy You a Drink, what is T-Pain on? A, on that Patron. B, on that Hennessy. C, MD 2020. Or D, on Grey Goose. So I'll read the question again. In Buy You a Drink, the song, what is T-Pain on? On that Patron, on that Hennessy, MD 2020, or on Grey Goose?
Oh man, it's a tough. I might not get this one, but I'm gonna go with Patron.
I'm messing with you. I'm
Yeah.
messing with you. You got that right. Man, DC Carson is on a roll. He is 3 for 3, y'all. This has never happened. This is an anomaly, everybody. This has never happened on the Grind 329 podcast show. Mr. DC Carson has got 3 out of 3 questions right. All right. Man, I'm gonna have to send you a gift if you win. All right, number 4. On number 4, number question number 4. And it's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. What did Boys to Men take with them? And this is not a multiple choice question. So in it's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. What did Boys to Men take with them?
Memories.
Well, I'll be dang. I think Mr. DC Carson may win this episode. All right, last and final question. Number 5. How long did Mary J. Blige sacrifice?
11
11
years.
years.
11
Two
years.
Oh, he knew that one off the bat. So let's see. 11 years, too long, a year, or 10 years. So he says 11 years. Is that your last and final answer?
Yes.
Well, guys, I have been beat. You're looking at history in the making right here. I have never been beat on this game in this podcast. So congratulations, DC. You did very well on this game. You have answered 5 out of 5 questions. So I'm gonna have to send you something later on. You probably have to tell me what it is that you'd like for me to send you. I'm gonna have to send you a gift for winning the game. All right. So let's get into your life a little bit. Tell us a little bit, as much as you can, about your upbringing and some key people that you looked up to in your life and why.
Right. So I was born in Tuskegee, Alabama. 70s baby. and that was a great place to be. Just, I mean, bro, it was just when you talk about like the people will talk about like Black Wall Street, which most of us were not alive, but you want to talk about Black excellence. I saw a lot of it in Tuskegee. Growing up there, you had Black grocery stores and businesses. And matter of fact, at 5 years old, I got a chance to fly with a guy named Chief Alfred Anderson. I know we'll get a little bit into that in a minute, but he was the one who Eleanor Roosevelt, President Roosevelt's wife, asked, "Can Negroes fly?" And he said, "I'll take you up and show you." And so he took her up a couple of traffic patterns around what's called Moulton Field. And not too long after that, he started the Tuskegee Airmen, and he's considered the grandfather of aviation. So my first flight was with him at 5 years old, changed my life. Anyway, then there was a time where lived in Chicago area, and from first and second grade, um, my mother was working on a doctorate, but we had family there, so it was interesting to go between my mother going to Northwestern and that environment where it was, academic and everything. You walk into a house. I remember people were playing cellos and then going to visit my grandmother at Robert Taylor home. It was like with the good times was off of, and just being a whole different world. But it lets you see things, and I think as a songwriter, being able to see different two contrasts of life that's there. Um, went to so through junior high, high school, all that good stuff. I graduated from St. Jude High School, which is in Montgomery's closed now, but it's very instrumental. It's a camp around the civil rights movement, and then went to college, multiple colleges, and bro, it was just you know having the intellect to do college and just not the discipline. So I joined the Air Force. It was great. Worked on aircraft, then got into finance, and I didn't like it. Got out about 4 years after 9/11, got back in and became Army officer and eventually a pilot, and then graduated. I mean, got back on active duty. So that's good. And then now I do music. And there was a period when I was out of the Air Force. I went to Nashville and did music, and everything was great. And then, man, hit the bottom. Bro, it was tough times. But that's going to be part of this music game. And so now I do music full time. Some people that made a difference in my life was Chief Alfred Anderson. Absolutely, because they didn't teach the Negroes how to fly with Jim Crow, Alabama. He had to beg, borrow, and teach himself to fly, which is nuts if you really look at what it takes to actually fly aircraft. I don't even see how he did it, but phenomenal. I do remember as a young kid watching the Commodores on the back of a flatbed truck, the flatbed, and they would play. And so I would say all of them collectively, even Ronald Prayer not lived too far, didn't live too far from my uncle. So watching the Commodores, how they navigated music, that was instrumental. I have a mentor of mine. His name is Gil. Phenomenal. Just taught me a lot about like manhood, and of course my parents. But and then I would have to say as a two-star general who he mentored me. I won't say his name, but he just really taught me how to like emotional regulation, taught me about leadership, understanding people, all kind of stuff. So those people made a tremendous impact on my life.
That's an incredible story. Now, it's funny that you mentioned the reason that I brought up your upbringing and those key people that's in your family um, that you looked up to and kind of set the standard for you for where you went later on in your life is I really wanted to do this podcast in Black History Month because believe it or not, you are a huge part of Black history because being I don't know if a lot of you all know that Mr. DC was an Army Black Hawk pilot. Now, if you go and look up how many Black Army, not Black Army, let me restate that. If you go and look up the numbers of how many Black Hawk pilots there are, you won't find those numbers because that is secret information. However, I'll tell you if I was to think about how many there are, there ain't that many. And so you fall in the history books of being one of many or a few Black Hawk pilots that have flown that helicopter. So that is I want to give you a round of applause for that because that's huge. That's
Appreciate it.
big because you don't see that. You don't see you know, you may fly commercial and you may see the pilot and you don't see a lot of black pilots. Now there are a lot, but you don't really see them a lot. So being a Black Hawk pilot, that is awesome. So I really want to do this in Black History Month because again, like I said, this is a huge Black History moment for the people that watch this show, that you can see in real time, live, someone who has impacted us in our community and our culture for doing something this big. Now, I saw on Facebook you posted a little while back that um, and I'll read this. It says, and I won't read the whole thing, but this is very, very impactful because a lot of people don't get to grow up in areas and communities that get to see these things. It says Charles Alfred Anderson Sr. was an American aviator known as the father of black aviation. Now, he earned the nickname Chief as chief flight instructor of the Tuskegee Airmen. My first flight was with him. I was around 5 to 6 years old. Now, I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to say this. My first flight that I ever took in life was as a grown 19-year-old going to Okinawa, Japan, joining the military, going to Okinawa, Japan. That's the first time I ever took a flight. So DC took a flight at 5 to 6 years old with black history in real time. So just wrap your mind around that. Okay, so he says his first flight was with him around 5 to 6 years old. Changed my life. Next, now listen to this key point right here. Next, my uncle, Lieutenant Colonel Walter M. Downs, served his country in World War II with the 332nd Fighter Group and was commander of the 301st Fighter Squadron. Learning his history helped me see that I could do it too. And that's where we'll leave that statement. So thank you for putting that up on Facebook because that is huge for your family, huge for the community, and that's great to see the lineage from down when you were growing up into now, and you also extending that lineage to your kids and your family from your perspective going on and to us. So thank you for that. And tell me a little bit about how you were feeling when you posted that.
A lot of things going on in the country, considering like the issues with DEI and the discussions that we're having. And I just wanted to show and highlight that, even in that or outside of that, that, that we can do so much. You can't let your color um stop you and think that you can't do stuff. Because I mean that you're looking for, yes, I'll even get into with my uncle Walter Downs. He- to be a black commander at that time was huge. He flew the P-51 Mustang. He was Tuskegee Airman. And so dude was bad. That's my grandfather's brother. And understanding that I saw them and how they operated. They could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand these folks are sharecroppers out of Mississippi and was sharp. And so that's why I look at it is that I growing up, I never say, oh, they ain't gonna. I mean, I heard people, and the same thing I heard people that look at me, oh, they're not gonna let you fly aircraft. They're not gonna let you do stuff. You don't let folks tell you no. You know that, Lonza. It's like,
Right.
nah, I'm gonna get this. So being able to watch and see how they navigated and they paved that path, I am grateful. And I also mentor people now. Somebody has a young man that wants to talk about aviation. That's a young black man. I will talk to them, give them whatever they need.
That's outstanding. All right, so for the viewing audience, if you're watching this, on the screen we have a cockpit of a Black Hawk helicopter, and it shows a pilot and a co-pilot. So if you were wondering what type of helicopter that DC, one of the helicopters that DC flew and piloted, then you would be able to see it on that screen. So um, it's funny
Looks
that
like
you talked about um, back in the civil rights days and how hard it was for us as black people to kind of get ahead and just do the basic things that other people were afforded the opportunity to do that was easier for them to get into. I want to play a clip, And in this clip, it's from 1975, and it's from General Daniel Chappie James Jr. And he made history as the first African American four-star general in the United States Armed Forces. So I want to play a small clip really fast of General James James Jr. So check it out.
Year coming up, and they wanted to say we got a black. In one word, one question, this guy has wiped out all the blood and sweat and tears and preparation and effort that it took me to prepare myself, to fill the squares, to fight the wars, to go to the schools, to go to Air University, and to study deep into the night, to hone my skills as a fighter pilot, and to get out there over way north in skies much less friendly than those of United and fight my way back home in the name of the foreign policy of my country. No, they didn't give me anything. And they don't give away stars in my service. You got to earn them. Generals are made, they're not born.
So he says that everything that he did, he earned it. He earned it in the middle of the night. He earned it out there flying in the skies. And no one gave him that four-star general. He earned that star as a general. Nobody gave it to him. He earned that. So I want to say for you all that is listening to this podcast that Mr. DC Carson, he earned that. He put in the blood, sweat, and the tears and the equity and the flight hours and all of that. And we don't want to talk about just the fact that it's the color of his skin that um that was in the mix that got him from A to B, but that played it played a part in his upbringing into his military career. So you got to think about that as a black man, he still was able to succeed. He was able to retire and become a veteran and give back to the community as well. So, again, I want to give a round of applause, Mr. DC Carson. Thank you for your service,
Thank you,
and I appreciate everything that you do. And I'm
man.
honored to be in your presence.
Let me tell you about that. The military pilot, you know, military. It ain't just walking around smiling with a flight suit on. You might find yourself in training, with a map, and you gotta go a couple of clicks. You know how it is, bro. And it's nothing. I mean, you have to be in good physical shape. And he go to check this out. I was horrible in math, horrible. So you know what I had to do? I had to learn how to do math. I had to went from barely being able to do percentages and fractions to calculus within a year because it was and I'm sharing that because a lot of people will think they have a limitation. You can out train your limitation. Same thing with this music game. Like I remember telling you, a piano player once told me, if you can hear it, you can play it.
Right.
And if you can see it, you can generally do it. Now understand this. Just because you can see yourself hitting the buzzer, with hitting the last 3-point shot with point 2 seconds left on the buzzer, no, that's a whole different ball game. You have to dribble, you have to do it. It don't mean you're gonna do it in the NBA Finals, but you might be able to do it at the YMCA. So
That's funny. So definitely, it's not easy, and you put in the work, and you're showing the rewards and the rewards out of that hard time, that time that you put in.
mhm.
So moving on, so we learned about DC as being a pilot. He talked about. I'll tell you too that math is not my strong suit as well. I'm good at math, but when you start talking about probabilities and statistics, oh, you can count me out. I was horrible in college for that. But music actually has some elements of math in it. So with that being said, people may not know that you play the keys. So I want to talk about, since we're talking about math and the keys, when did you first learn about the piano, and why was it an instrument of choice for you?
Well, first instrument, just like most young brothers, we learned the beat on stuff, and then I eventually graduated where that my parents got a piano, and so I took some lessons. I took the lessons actually with a lady who had taught Lionel Richie, and I didn't like it. It was too formal. I didn't want to play, a it's a song called Hot Cross Bun. But anyway, playing those, and then I had a piano player that played at church, gospel music. He was just killing it. and I just fell in love with the piano. But I fell in love with a lot of different instruments. I mean, I played the violin in second grade. I played the piano, of course. I've played bass. Um, I played trombone, trumpet, motor stuff. I played almost every instrument in an orchestra at one time. So I just had a love for music. But the piano is just something because the piano, think about the piano, most instruments, you're playing one note. Piano, you might use all 10 fingers, and you are just really, you can create complex chords, different things like that. So that's what resonates me with the piano because you can go way up or way low, and you can just really run the whole palette of all instruments really with piano.
In combinations, you got all those different combinations you can put together, and then you
Yes,
start talking about
yes,
the circle of fifths and all that kind of stuff, and
yes,
music
indeed.
theory. So it gets to be interesting once you actually pull the the onion apart,
It
and
does.
yeah, you can do a lot of stuff. But I think that's a hard thing with me as far as like learning piano is that it's it's been eluding me for a lot of years. Like I'm a lot better now than I was when I first started on it, but it's eluded me because I'm trying to figure out the puzzle pieces, and I'm like, okay, that don't make sense. Why does this sound good here and it don't sound good here and blah blah blah. So, but anyway, enough about me and my piano mess. That's interesting. Um, next
I'm gonna say
question.
this
Go ahead.
before you go move on. I would say this: if you are a beat producer and you're trying to make something where you got your kicks kicking and your bass basing, whatever chorus you do, try to stay above middle C. Don't go
Mm,
down there because we're gonna jack your mix up if you start getting into, you know, if you go lower, you want to put instruments where they naturally go. That's why a lot of people fight their mix because they are trying to put things and it's one thing the layer, but you're trying to overlap, and especially in the middle range, which you see middle C is, stay up. And you don't have to do full Steely Dan or Frankie Beverly and the Maze, these big old like gigantic jazz chords and stuff like that. Keep it simple. One, two, three. You can get into first the one, the three, and the five. You can get into and versions of stuff. And I know we just kind of taking a quick little detour, but
are you good?
try your best to stay above middle C. And the great thing is, because I will give you an example of me. My last piano instructor was this. He came in and he, again, I was young, and he played, and I had to play the whole boring stuff over again. Then he played the Charlie Brown song. Do 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 do. He played it. He left. He came back the next day. I had figured it out overnight. He said he told my parents, "Y'all don't need me. He's got it." Never had another piano lesson from that, but it's just like breaking it down and hearing it. But the point being is that produce, make your beat, make that, but just produce and just use the piano. And if you program, and the great thing is about this, and then we move on, is that the MPCs these days and stuff like that, they already had the chorus in there with you. Was using it last night. I was like, why the heck am I programming? The only thing I would tell you, if you do use the chords function in there,
Mm-hmm.
go back in and stagger your notes because your notes, you never hit everything out once. You might want to roll on, which means you might have to nudge some things, which take the snap off and nudge it. Or you may just sometimes you roll up, sometimes you roll down. And they don't have to be, just don't line them all the way up because then it takes away from the feel. And you might even want to change the velocity a little bit because you don't want your chorus to just sound the same over and over. That's
Awesome.
a tip. All right, let's
That's a great tip. I love it. I love it. That's what we're here for, to learn from the people that know how to do things. So let's talk about the Behringer LM Drum. Now, we had a conversation a couple months ago, Christmas time. I did a video on the LM Drum, and I said, man, this is a piece of equipment I think that I want to have. And so DC was able to get his LM Drum first. And I would like to hear your thoughts 30 days later on the LM Drum.
All right. So the first day I had it, I was like, cool, right? It was good. It felt good. You got the sounds from LM1. And if y'all want to know, like a lot of songs that the LM did, because the original drum machine came out was the Oberheim, and it was the DMX. Is that it? Um, and that's where you had a lot of your Curtis Blow and that kind of stuff on. Hey, I think they may have used a little Lynn drum, Prince, When Doves Cry. This is what this thing did. I went in there, I took the doggone stick and turned the side stick, turned it down, had it, I was all into it. Then I didn't like it for a moment. I sampled it, I didn't. And then I was like, why do I have this thing when the sequence in my MPC is better? I can just sample the sounds, which I had the LM sound. But then I went back and really started looking at the sample abilities and the swing and the simplicity. And I started listening to some older music. Um, a lot of the Janet Jackson stuff. Uh, the M2 made no Juice said
Hmm.
that's LM all day long. And I was like, wow, this thing has some feel to it. And I had fallen in love with this thing.
I agree with you as well. I enjoyed the machine 30 days. It hadn't been 30 days quite yet with mine. But I figured out some of the limitations that I was thinking that it would have that people wasn't showing online. Like you don't see a lot of hip hop people with the LM drum showing that you can sample and make beats on it. So that's the first thing that I wanted to see was that if it was going to hold up to the Island Instruments S2400 and sample chop like the 2400. But I think that was kind of giving it too much because it's not a SP1200 and it's not a S2400. It's a LM drum. So you can if you are a hip hop producer and you sample chop, you can figure it out. Just like back in the 80s when the producers figured out to make the SP1200 into a hip hop machine. It wasn't designed to be a machine for hip hop. It was a drummer's assistant, but they learned how to chop with the limitations and make it what it is. So I would give it, if I was to rate it between a 1 and 10, I'd probably give it about 8.5. What about you? If you was to rate it between 1 and 10, what would you give it?
I
Just
give it an 8. One of the great things about it is the freaking outs.
it
The
does have.
outs is really good. And that 12-bit, you can do stuff. Again, I really think that for some people, if you think about it, that you can do some things with this machine. And I think right now I see a lot of people using it for other stuff, but I think over time people gonna really dig into this thing, and I like it. I mean, think about it, bro. It's got like the outs. It's got the doggone mixer in there. You've got what's a house forget named the Wave Designer and the doggone analog filter,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's got all that kind of stuff on there. So once you get the hang of it, it's good.
And I'm gonna use it just for, for y'all that's watching the podcast. Y'all will get an insight. I'm gonna use it to really make drums in it and sample it into my MPC, and then and mesh it. So I have
Yes.
a MPC project with the sound that I have in the MPC, and then I'm gonna bring the LM drum into it, and it's gonna mesh and become one musical orchestra. How do you say it? Orchestration piece. So that's how I'm gonna use it. And yeah, I like it. I like it. So talk to me, since we're talking about music, let's move into some production stuff because I know you love it as much as I do. So talk to me about your favorite musical project that you've done that you put out, and tell me um, some of the reasons why you put it out.
So I have one song out there, Retail Therapy. I did that during COVID. You can find that on all streaming outlets on the DC Carson. Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff is out there. And if y'all and so I have that one, and then I have that was just something I did, a song where we were all cooped up for COVID. I was listening to some of the ladies at work saying, I just one thing I miss is shopping. I just need to get me some retail therapy. And I was like, you know how it hits you. And I went home and wrote that. So if y'all don't mind, check my music out. That song, if you want to use it in like videos you're doing, feel free to look for it and link that to your video. And then I did an album called Riding Reels. I wanted to do something instrumental because I really would like to get into sync. Um, but also, of course, doing music for other people. So I did an album called Riding the Reels, and it's just 10 songs, and it's just some stuff I want to do that can be used to sync, but it can be used to sync your a reel, all kind of stuff. So it's called Ride and Reels. You can put the music on, there's no singing, nothing in it. It's just straight music, so you can ride, but you can also use it to make reels. And I'm getting ready to drop another one off, but though that's something I wanted to do as well as to get into the process of not just making an album, but learning how to release it and how that goes. So far, I have made a little something off of it. You don't make much off of streaming. I'm just here to tell y'all, but it still is every time you put something out. Think about it. The more you get to bat, the better you can get it swing it hitting the ball, making contact. So
Definitely, you got to put in that work.
yes.
So check it out. So did you run into any difficulties while putting that project together? The
Heck yeah.
So talk to us. Tell me about one issue that you ran into that you didn't foresee previously when you thought about putting it together.
The one that every last one of us deals with, and that what the heck is your mix gonna sound like on different stuff? You can hear the echo in my room. So my room is not treated. I have to use the slate VXX headphones, which works great. I'm here to tell you. I ran into some stuff as far as putting it out online because there's some restrictions. Your artwork has to, it depends on how you release it. The other thing I ran into was, hey, folks, this is something that we know Angie Stone, hope she's in the arm of, be in the arms of our Father now. But when you release a song, you better make sure that you do not just the copyright for the song. You got to get two. You got to do one for the song, and then you have to do one for the sound recording. And I ran into an issue where I got locked out of the copyright thing, and I could not get in. So that's been the stuff. And then just the whole thing of you've been in a project, every time you get into a good project where you're going, some kind of weird thing happens with your computer, all kind of stuff. Like I had a track and I moved some stuff. Man, because I had some old, you remember them Emu Planet Fats and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that? I
Yep.
had a bunch of stuff, lost them. I was like, no. So I had to come up with something like that. Had to come up with alternative sounds. But the thing is, sometimes when you mess up, it makes you learn something. So that was about it. Just the mixing, the whole setting stuff up, administrative wise, and then the computer technical stuff.
So we talked about earlier. You said you're thinking about putting out a new album. Tell us a little bit about your new album, the direction that you're planning to go with that, if you can.
Well, I have it. It's going to be Ride and Reels Volume 2. More music, better mixing. Because folks, you gotta mix. If you don't mix and stay on it, you're not gonna get better. It is what it is, and you can't. But don't get so be bothered by making it. Is it this? Is it that? If people are bopping it, just rock with it. But this album will be a volume 2, and it will just be digging into some different things. I didn't really use any loops on the first one, but I did use some this time. And I want a little, I want to have a better palette. So I even got some music that sounds like from, the 2000s, like a Backstreet Boy track. I got some that kind of like West Coast feel. But I really just wanted to, because I like producing these days because folks, check this out. I've been around since the tape days. And that wasn't no joke to do stuff on tape. So when I hear folks say, I don't have this, I don't have this, the struggle was real back in the day. My first professional keyboard was a Korg M1. And that was when I joined the military. Because you know how it is. You couldn't afford it. One of the reasons I
Right.
joined the military was to be like, I got to get some gear. Um, but yeah, it's the thing I like about these days, and this is what this next album will be, Ride and Reels 2, and I probably will drop it within the next couple of days. Uh, to to just put some really good music where you can just listen to it, spring, you can ride out, and I'm looking forward to dropping it.
Well, we will be on the lookout for that, and this podcast will be out today. So unless I run into any editing problems, which I will knock on some wood that we won't run into that. But this
Hey, man.
podcast will be out today, and we will help to promote that new album that's coming out in a couple days. Now that brings me to my next question about your favorite DAW of choice and why, because that
Cubase.
we talked about mixing, so I think that would be a appropriate question about the DAW that you use.
All right, so Cubase, I've used it all. Now understand this. I've been around music a long time, like, and so I've used Pro Tools and stuff. I remember when Pro Tools, I was in Nashville at that time doing music when it came out, and I was like in the late '90s and stuff like that. But people do, and so but I use Cubase, and I use it on an old Atari, excuse me, 1040 ST, and I mean you could sequence and stuff like that. You couldn't do music in it, but eventually Cubase wound up integrating the ability to do audio, and I love it. But I have used all the DAWs. I've used Logic even before Logic became Apple only, all that good stuff.
So Cubase, I tried to I've tried a lot of different dolls as well, and I
Mhm.
don't think that I've used Cubase. And one of the number one reasons that I haven't really touched Cubase is because I didn't want to get another doll to that I may fall in love with that I might like, and then I have to start over again because I like Ableton right now. I'm working in Ableton, and
That's
I
good.
like GarageBand. I have Logic. I tried Logic, but it was too complicated for me, so I just went back to GarageBand because I was familiar with GarageBand. But Cakewalk was my my weapon of choice back in the day. So
I use that too. I use that for years. Actually moved from Cubase to using Cakewalk for years, then the Pro Tools, then I came back to Cubase.
now Pro Tools I hate. I probably said
Man,
this in every interview that I've had. I hate Pro Tools.
but
Hate
check
it.
this out. But check how you know how Pro Tools got started? So it used to be back when you had like the Lin drum and all that, where we're talking about the drums.
Mhm.
There was a company called Digi Drums
Mhm.
that would make cartridges to put into some of the drum machines. But then it became Digi Design, and then eventually became Avid. Avid bought
Mhm.
it and Pro Tools. So some of these companies have been around for years and they were great. I mean, think because understand when Pro Tools came out, you had machines that were 200 megahertz with 16 megabytes. I didn't say gigabytes,
Right.
megabytes. So you had to put those cards in, the HD cards, and the more HD cards you got, then they were the better. But I mean, you were going to spend some money on the HD cards. But then when the computers got fast, then you didn't have so much. And I think they got so relaxed, and that sometimes you can become master, you can become so complacent. Feel like this. You can become so complacent that instead of being Netflix, you stay Blockbuster.
Right.
And you have to be able to adapt. So I like Pro Tools because Pro Tools gave you the power to like stack vocals and all kind of stuff. But then they just kind of you can say, hey, we got it. We don't really have to do anything. Or I can't say that was their business model. I'm just gonna say is that the innovation. I think everybody else caught up and
Right.
then eclipsed them.
And
And when Fruity
everybody
Loops came out in Ableton, that was it.
and I think also too that they really pushed Pro Tools on the major studios, so they were making so much money with the major studios that they wasn't thinking about the bedroom producers who were coming up. And once those, like you said, once those computers got fast, and those other companies started coming in and allowing free software and easier way to record, and got them up out of here real fast and quick. I used to have that fight all the time. I used to show people. I used to have this chart, and it showed Pro Tools, Cakewalk, Reason, somebody else at that time. I can't remember. It was so far back in the 2000s, but it had a list and it showed comparison of everything that Cakewalk had in it, everything that Pro Tools had on it, and it would show comparison between all these machines. And I said, see, you can see that everything you have in Pro Tools, I have in Cakewalk without the price, without the headache, without trying to get it to load on the computer and killing your computer. All of that, I can do that with a snap of a finger. So, but yeah. Um, So let's talk about, and we'll wrap this up. Since we're talking about programming in the computer and DAWs, the world has changed as far as like people getting in front of the camera and being on streaming sites and video. So, do you have any future plans with video streaming or video programming?
Well, I do have some shows that I'm gonna have start coming out with. I will be honest with you that I know that video is part of the sphere as a music producer, and I will tell any producer that you have to do it. Some of you that might be a little older or grayer, maybe like I just want to make music, I don't have to do it. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And while I'm not opposed to doing videos, I just really like to spend more of my time making music. But yes, I do have some things on my YouTube channel, which is DC Carson Music. And there's some great videos. Go in there and check it out. I did a video comparing an original MPC 2000 versus the Flavor Pro that you can get it. And right here, you can see my MPC right here. As well as I got the ASR 10 still. So I got some of the older stuff. And then, of course, the new one, like right in front of me, I have the MPC Key 61. So I will be putting videos out there. And please go into my videos. And if there's something you want to see, fine. I deal with a lot of headspace because a lot of times we be overthinking things. Think we gotta have this, we don't. I'll give you my opinion. I won't necessarily. I will give you a overview of gear, but I probably won't be one of those people that are like the nuts and bolts of like, hey, I went inside my Key 61 and here's where the megabytes are, and if you unsolder this and you take this, you're not gonna get that from me. But you are gonna get honest assessment, what you can use it, audible, what I'm hearing. But I do plan so, but I've got videos out there now. And so if I can get all y'all to like this, go to DC Carson Music, like and subscribe, check out a couple of videos, and expect for me to be flooding my doggone YouTube channel with more videos. They're not gonna be long, but they will be short snippets of things that I think you will find useful. They can always be beneficial because I don't believe just to be saying stuff just to be saying. I think to be saying it to help you out because you don't have a lot of time. You got 24 hours in the day, six of them, you got to be, man, you're going to be snoring. So I want to make sure I put something out there. You give me your time that it be something that changes your life.
Favorite NPC and why?
Come on now, bro. I'm messing with you. No, I'm messing with you. Man,
It's
let me tell you something. Truth be told, my favorite NPC at this point is the Live 2. I mean, folks, y'all can mix on that thing. And that's really what's getting it. I mean, my Key 61, though I know people have the SC, the SCX and stuff, but you got 61, you ain't beating the 61. I mean, as a keyboard player and all of that, you're not beating it. But for portability and that speaker, I am telling you, you can mix on that thing. No lie. That I really like the portability because I can lay down the sketch pads and then come in. I can't wait for them to do the MPC3 beta in the thing because I like to do just a basic track and then open it up. Well, hopefully I can open it up because there's still a VST2 and Cubase only uses VST3s. So I can open it up and then drag my files in it, which makes life tremendously easier. But definitely the 3000 folks, there's just nothing like that sound. I know folks will say, well, this is good and I liked it, but the 3000 and them individual outs, it's the bomb.
well, you're backing the claim that Jermaine Dupri said. He's also said that the 3000 is that machine, and if Kai was to ever do something again, that he recommended that they go back and re-engineer the 3000, and that would be his greatest dream, that they would bring that 3000 up to today's date, up to date to today's what everything is on right now. So awesome. And that's the only NBC that I don't even want to. I don't want to say it. I don't have a 3000, so I don't want to talk about collecting more NPCs because it's gonna be a headache. So I'm jealous that you got two 3000s over there.
But that was again that was in that era telling you is where people were getting rid of them,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I can get a three. 3,000 for under a grand, four, yeah, six, $700. Sign me up. I got a 2,000 for under $200.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the OG 2000. It sounds different than the XL. I don't care what nobody says. The 2000, it's not as user friendly, but it's good. I even have a Rack S 2000,
Mm.
and that's good. But man, that menu diving in the
Right.
Rack. But I've got like a E60, a EMU E64. If you want to talk about like bit crunch and stuff like that, that thing right there will rock your doggone room. And that's the thing, you won't really hear it, but you and I are similar. But believe it or not, probably my second favorite drum machine, other than that live too, is the MV 8000.
Mm.
The MV 8000 is the most underrated drum machine I've ever seen.
Well, that means I need to plug mine up and get to rocking with it. I hadn't figured out the. I've made some beats in it, but I hadn't figured out the complexities of it, the how to run it. It's not like the MPC, so it kind of gives my brain a brain fart. So I've heard that though. You're not the first person that said that, and also I will say that if Roland came out with a 8,000 or a new 8800, there'd be problems on the horizon for some of these these drum machine companies, because that would be an incredible machine if they brought it up to today's specs.
Roll, I'm gonna tell you how you jump into this. Redo that 8000 and put all of your SoundCloud into it.
Ooh, oh yeah, that rolling cloud is crazy.
You do that,
Oh my gosh.
you are going to just slice. I mean, think about having a JP8 off in there, or a D50, or just a. I mean, you're gonna. I mean, heck, I bought this one back in the '90s, the JV 1080,
Mm-hmm.
and I still have that bad boy. And though I have it in the cloud, which I use a lot. You're not beating the hardware, but I will tell Roland, if you want to get in that game, that. But the side note, I will tell this folks, if you want an MPC 3000 sound, guess what you can get in Lonza? You got one. You know what it is?
What, 4,000?
SP404.
Oh, the 404.
Believe
Really?
it or not, the kick, the resonance,
Mm-hmm.
SP404 it shocked me because I was doing a comparison one day. I was like, wait a minute, you telling me this SP404 Mark II has the same kind of a punch that the 3000 does? It's not that. Put it like this: I think people got to get out of the mindset of it's got to be the exact sound. There's a difference between an accurate sound
Mm-hmm.
and a usable sound. You probably are not going to get accurate sound these days, but if you got a usable sound, that's right there. It's fine, because y'all also have to remember a lot of these albums, they went through SSL boards
Mm-hmm.
that were warmed up because you got different sounds out of that stuff. It went on the tape. You don't know what type of tape machine it was. You don't know if it was one that was magnetized or fresh tape, or if it had been recorded over, because you begin to start adding noise the more you record over it. So that's what folks got to understand, that stuff is that you can get these machines like the 3000 and stuff, but it's not just having the machine, it's having the entire chain to include the engineer. If you don't have that, you're not going to necessarily get that exact sound.
I had a similar conversation the other day with another producer, and we agreed that it's about sound selection at the end of the day. If you can have all the drum machines in the world, but if you can't find the sounds that sound good and put them together, your beat's going to always end up being trash. It's
So,
about sound selection at the end of the day.
right, well, here's the thing about it. Let me ask you, when y'all sit back and you listen to a lot of James Brown, and you listen
Mm-hmm.
to a lot of Motown and stuff like that, those were one take, everybody in one room, one
Right.
take all the way through. So it wasn't no go back and remix stuff. So guess what they had to do? They already had to have the sound before. They didn't have full equalization like they did in a lot of stuff. And the room was the reverb. So sometimes you had to have them do different things, or put a speaker where they would sing it to a speaker, and the speaker would be here, and then they record it, that to give the room the room. So what I'm saying is that's 1,000% true. I've seen, I got over 30 some thousand drum sounds. But I've learned to just reduce it down to 50 and rock that. Because here's the thing, if you folks this, especially with the MPC, you can layer sounds. If you are sitting there and you're having to do all this EQ, because EQ initially should be subtractive, taking something out that don't need to be
Mm-hmm.
there.
Right.
Sound selection is everything. If you're not using the right sound, that's why you fight in your mix, because you're like all the way. You got your bass down here, you got your chords below your middle C. You got all this stuff clumped into one thing, and you're trying to carve it out. Versus, hey, I'm producing. I'm not selecting my sounds right. That's why some people used to spend weeks in like trying to find the perfect snare. But what made Prince good? Prince just basically took the doggone LM and just the Lin drum and just said, "Hey, I'm gonna make this sound," because you only had one snare sound, so he had to freak it and then keep on going.
I watched a video the other day from the Tears of Fears, and they were talking about one of their hit songs, and they said that when they made it on they made some of the chords on, I guess, on the keyboard, and then they brought in the Lindrum. Said that typically it would take them about 30 days to write one song and create a song and record it and make it for the album. 30 days. And they said this particular song took them 7 days, and that was unorthodox for them, that it took them 7 days to write that particular song. I think it's everybody rules. What is it? Everybody
Everybody wants
rules.
to rule the world.
Yeah, everybody wants to rule the world, I believe it is. Said it took them 7 days to create that song, and they didn't like it. They didn't like what it sounded like until the one of the guys put in the LM drum drums, and then they brought in the guitar that made the melody of it. But and that comes to the way that we make music nowadays. Like, I wish I would take 7 days to create a song. Like today, I can make a beat in the next 10 minutes, and if think about it, a song is 3 minutes 15 seconds typically for a rap song with three verses and three hooks, right? I could probably record a song in about 7 minutes, and I have that song out on all streaming platforms by close of business today. So we're working in a time where everything is super fast, everything is at your fingertips, and you have no excuse not to overthink it and get your music out there. So yeah, that just blew my mind. Wow, it took them 30 days with a band, of course, in the recording studios and blah blah blah, to put one song together. And I thought about it. Maybe it is possible that I probably should take more time out in creating the process, but I don't want to overthink myself and over record and over produce and over mix and all that stuff, because I'll never get any music done that way. So because I work pretty fast. So um last question for you. I know you talked earlier about your social media, but let the fans in the world know where they can find you at on social media.
Okay. Instagram, DC Carson Music. I post stuff on there all the time. You might see me post something about music. You might see me cooking a brisket. But anyway, that'll be a good site to come to, and YouTube. Those are the two main places. I'm not on TikTok, thing like that. But DC Carson Music on YouTube as well as Instagram. And again, feel free to drop questions, all that kind of stuff. I am open, and I don't mind connecting with people. So I appreciate y'all like and subscribe to it. That'll help me out, get the algorithm up, and I'm gonna try to flood y'all timeline with some good stuff.
That is awesome. And last but not least, any final thoughts and words of encouragement to the listeners and the viewing audience?
Yeah, so just kind of the block before we got to that question about my social media. Folks, it took people back in the day a long time to do stuff because you didn't have access to major studios. You got access to make beats on your phone. And I think we're overthinking it to a point. The sad thing is we're overthinking it, but yet still doing the same thing. Still kind of using the same drum sounds. We're still trying to do and things. And it's amazing that people are using 808 drum sounds now, when back in the day when that thing came out, it was considered trash initially. Until the hip hop music and the R&B community got a
Yeah.
hold to it. And then when you had songs like freaking Loose Ends Hanging on the String, and they just sit there and rock or but the what they did with the 808, and then eventually with the Lynn drum and all that good stuff. Make your music, and here's the thing I want y'all to start doing: just put it out. Stop overthinking it. Stop storing stuff on your hard drive. You can put it out. Finish the song, even if it's just a verse, chorus. Don't overthink it. Just do it. It's a lady out there that had one of the biggest tracks in the world, and guess what she did? She sang because everybody know it. She got this is her lyrics. La da dee da 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 dee da da. How basic is that?
Right.
Or I mean, at the end of the day, but it was about the group of the song. Or there was another song I was thinking about. I remember like Push It was thrown on to the end of the song. It was a song they recorded in the bathroom. Push It was huge. So I'm just gonna say to you is that stop overthinking it. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't become good unless you're doing. So think about what you want to do. You have the access with all this technology to layer stuff, to move things. And here's the thing, keep it simple. You don't have to have 8, 9, 10, 12 songs. The greatest thing you can do is if you leave space. If you listen to the Lynn drum, you will find that a lot of stuff like Saturday Love, Sherelle and Alexander said the drum is boom, pop, boom, pop, boom, pop, boom, and the bass line, boom, boom. See, jumping right in there in between that. Let the stuff just kind of dance and let it glue to each other and have fun. And don't be afraid to get out of what people are doing now. That's the last thing I'm gonna say. Everybody's starting to sound the same. We know that.
Right.
Come out of it. Do something. Decide to do something different. Folks may say it's old, whatever it is, but all you need is one good song. So just have fun with this thing. And so my bonus thing is gonna be, folks, make sure your paperwork is right.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Well, again, we want to thank Mr. DC Carson for his words of encouragement, and thank him for being on the podcast today and just giving us his insight, because he has so many years of history in this music game, and he has a lot of information to give you all. And he don't just give information on like music. He has videos on relationships and videos on just everything that you can think of as far as life. And yeah, I definitely like to cook too. So those cooking a brisket on the grill would be great information that I'd like to see on video. So keep going with that stuff. That is one of those outside channels that really get a lot of views and stuff like that. So everybody eats. You got to remember, everybody eats. So that would be a great mesh where you have your channel where people was watching, where you can cook as well, and then you're also cooking in the studio. So, which is awesome. So again, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And like I always say to you that you all push me to do more stuff than I would normally just do out in the open, because I'll just do it in my studio and just do it. But by you all saying, hey, I like this, or pushing the videos, that helps me to bring the content that I do on my channel. So again, thank you, and I appreciate you. And with that being said, we'll catch y'all on the next edition of the podcast.
Follow the Grind 329 by Lonza podcast on YouTube and Instagram. Type in that Beats by Lonza. Hope you've enjoyed the show. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, contact us at zay2001@gmail.com. Let's give a round of applause for our guest.
And we're out of here. Thank you again. We'll see you on the next edition. That's Mr. DC Carson at DC Carson Music.